Shall we? A very warm welcome to all the esteemed faculty members and delegates. This webinar today is being organized by the SIG, which is Special Interest Group Holistic Approach to Fertility, under the aegis of Indian Fertility Society. We are honored to have the President, Dr. K.D. Nair, sir, with us, and Dr. Surveen, who is the General Secretary. She is also there to grace the occasion. So I would just request KD sir to just give a welcome address. And sir actually needs no introduction. Sir is a great teacher. He has so many publications, and to just make it short, I just would say, which summarizes that sir has received Star Awards twice in ASRM 2020 and in ASRM 2021. Every year his papers are accepted for international publications and presentations. Sir is a source of inspiration to all of us. Welcome, sir. I just request you to give a welcome address.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome all the delegates to this webinar being organized by IFS Holistic Medicine and IFS UP East chapter. I bring you greetings from more than 4,000 IFS members spread over 29 chapters all over India. And our SIG, we have got 18 SIG and Indian Fertility Society, and SIG has been working excellent. They have been busy organizing webinars, they have been busy organizing CMEs, and on the academic front, the SIG is leading. The holistic medicine was founded when we have created the SIG. Probably the people are not too much enthusiastic, but this SIG holistic medicine has been leading this academic activity. I'm very happy to, and I congratulate Dr. Shalini Chawla webinar. And I wish all the delegates an excellent tenure ahead. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. Dr. Rajvi is the convener. She deserves a big round of applause. And Dr. Ritu Jain is also there with us as a co-convener. I request Dr. Surveen Guman ma'am. She has a vast experience and she's the General Secretary of IFS. We see how IFS is progressing under the leadership of both Dr. KD and Dr. Surveen. And recently, today only, her book has been published, The Atlas of Infertility, Assisted Reproductive Techniques. So she has many, many, many awards and great publications.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you,
yeah. Yeah, over to you, Dr. Surveen.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure being with the SIG Holistic Medicine. And I think all of you are doing a great job as far as holistic medicine is concerned, because this is one of the lesser known topics. And people generally don't sit and listen. But your webinars are so interesting. They have been put in such an interesting manner. Simple things like micronutrients in infertility, things like culture and diet. I mean, they're things to be thought about. And I would go ahead and absolutely congratulate Rajvi, Ritu, and you, Shalini, for taking up this initiative and going chapter to chapter. So this time, I think it's UP East and Manjusha and her team.
Yes.
And I think this is the need of the hour. It is really appreciable that you've taken your SIG so seriously and taken out the best points to be discussed in an SIG. So all the best to you. And thank you. Thank you from the IFS Central for taking this to chapter all over India.
Thank you so much, Dr. Surveen, for your kind words. Dr. Rajvi, my pleasure to invite and introduce Dr. Rajvi Mehta. It's actually the brain child and the entire work is being led by the Dr. Rajvi Mehta. She is actually the convener for this SIG Holistic Medicine. And she has huge experience. She is an embryologist, she is a researcher, and she conducts a lot of training programs also. Dr. Rajvi, I just request you.
I would like to welcome all of you on behalf of IFS SIT on Holistic Medicine. Me and my co-conveners, Dr. Shalini Chawla, Dr. Ritu Jain. This SIG has given us an opportunity to look on a wider perspective to these issues of infertility. So earlier we used to, at least I would be focused on embryology, And now we realize that we need to go backwards and see why infertility occurs, what can be done, and bring about a holistic approach. And thanks to my co-conveners and the presidents of the various chapters, thanks Dr. Manjusha of the UP chapter, Western UP, to join hands with us. And we look forward to a very interesting evening.
Thank you, Dr. Rajvi. Dr. Manjusha, are you there? Because
Yes,
Dr. Manjusha. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So my pleasure to invite Dr. Manjusha also. We are conducting this webinar with her. Dr. Manjusha, she is the secretary of the UP East chapter. She is very, very academically oriented. She's a senior consultant at Sahara Hospital. You know, we all as SIGs are very keen to conduct seminars with the UP East chapter because we know Dr. Manjusha is very enthusiastic, takes a lot of interest. And the more I say, the less it is for her. So Dr. Manjusha, just a warm welcome from your side.
Thank you, Shalini. Thank you for having me here. And it's really a pleasure. And it's actually a privilege to be hosting this CME in collaboration with the SIG Holistic Medicine. And I'm absolutely delighted to have with us the President and the Secretary General and this galaxy of stalwarts. And as you have already said that today the medical practice worldwide has realized that diet and lifestyle measures are not only altering the way we look at the disease, but also they modulate the course of the disease. So I think the less I talk, the better it is so that we can hear these stalwarts more. So I think it is now time that we begin with the scientific part of today's afternoon. And the first talk would be from Dr. Ritu, and Dr. Ritu would be talking about micronutrients. And as the chairpersons, we have Dr. Ruxana Khan and Dr. Kanchan Sharma. They're all renowned practitioners in their own field. So let us hear from Dr. Ritu and let us invite the chairs to do the honors. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I share my screen?
Should we introduce Ritu?
No, ma'am, no. I can start because this will give me some little time to talk. So, 1 minute. I come to slideshow, just a minute. So good evening, seniors and my friends. The topic today I am going to talk about is role of micronutrients in infertility. And our SIG group really believes that diet has a lot to do with the embryogenesis and a healthy pregnancy. And thanks, Dr. Rajvi, to have chosen this topic for this talk for me. So the old saying goes, as what you sow, so shall you reap. So this aptly applies to reproductive health of women. The periconceptional maternal nutrition has a great role in the reproductive health, be it a natural conception or assisted, and the nutrition matters at every stage of reproduction, right from embryogenesis till pregnancy and childbirth. So it is the nutritional imbalance, what is happening nowadays, micronutrient malnutrition and macronutrient calorie dense intake. Basically, it leads to increased ROS generation, which affects the embryogenesis. So there have been enough studies on this. The study from Nutrients 2022, the role of paternal diet on spermatogenesis. And the focus has been on epigenetics and intervention with the bioactive food components, which are the nutrients and non-nutrients, which have got physiological as well as their antioxidant effect on the cell. So consuming a diet which is rich in bioactive food components, it affects the male fertility. And we know that they have abundant antioxidant properties, and it prevents the cell damage from the reactive oxygen species, and it improves the sperm motility, viability, and its function. This BFCs, they affect the spermatogenesis in its all three stages, that is spermatogoniogenesis, cytogenesis, and spermiogenesis, right from after birth, and it has its epigenetic effect and of course transgenerational. So spermatogenesis, as we say, oogenesis is affected right from birth, and it also has its effect in the next generation. BFCs do improve the male gametogenesis, epigenetics of germ cells, and signature of the offspring, and it restores offspring metabolic health by reducing stressors in the diet, stressors in the embryogenesis periods. And what are these BFCs? Like ascorbic acid, alpha tocopherol, that is vitamin E, polyunsaturated fatty acids, trace elements, carnitines, N-acetylcysteine, coenzyme Q, folate. Now, micronutrients affect each and every part of the sperm from head to tail. Zinc and selenium is important for motility and morphology. Acetyl L-carnitine, again for motility. L-carnitine and molybdenum, again for motility. L-arginine for vitality. Vitamin C, E, and thiamine are related to sperm concentration. Then lipid peroxidation and DNA damage relates to lycopene. N-acetylcysteine, it affects the protabination and it prevents the DNA damage. And folic acid, we know, is actively involved with the DNA synthesis. So reactive oxygen species not only affect the male, they also affect the female at every part, at every process of reproduction. Increased ROS, it affects folliculogenesis, oocyte maturation, ovulation, corpus luteum formation, the endometrial cycle, implantation, and receptivity. Each and everything in reproduction is affected by ROS. And ROS, we know, it not only leads to, not only affects the embryogenesis, but is the harbinger of so many diseases which lead to infertility. So basically, increased ROS leads to decreased mitochondrial function, decreased ATPs. It leads to increased degeneration of embryos, increased apoptosis of blastocyst, and finally decreased implantation or increased miscarriage. And what are these antioxidants we have to counter these oxidative species? They can be enzymatic, like superoxide, dismutase, catalase, glutathione, peroxidase, GSH reductase, or non-enzymatic like vitamin C, E, selenium, zinc, taurine, and others are listed here, glutathione, ceruloplasmin. Few of them are synthesized endogenously and mostly come from the diet. So there are enough data to support, enough data which has demonstrated that omega-3 fatty acids, vitamins, xanthine, and trace elements have important role in the sperm function and its and embryogenesis. So taking them one by one, we know vitamin E, it is a chain breaking antioxidant which prevents propagation of free radical damage in the biological membranes, and it defends PUFA from the auto-oxidation. Like vitamin C, it is more of a reducing agent, and B12, riboflavin, folic acid, and vitamin B6, they are very crucial and for oxidative defense of the nucleus. Other antioxidants, either they act as coenzyme in the important cell function, that is, they act as catalase, and they are the carotenoids and polyphenols, they are also potent antioxidants. The other micronutrients like zinc, copper, iron, vitamin A, folate, they all have important role in the embryogenesis. Now, what is the rationale for using multiple micronutrients before conception, be it natural or assisted? Because there is enough data to show that there significantly increased number of confirmed pregnancy compared to the one which were not receiving any supplement. So even if it is just 5%, but it is significant increase for a fertile, healthy women also. So, and it is not only folic acid supplementation, as long back when we were students, it was taught only folic acid, because that time most of the diet which was consumed was healthy and balanced diet. So that time only folic acid supplementation was talked about, but now the studies have shown that multiple micronutrients supplementation, or what we should say that correction of the whole diet pattern should be done, because it definitely improves the fertility. The study showed 66.7 versus 39.3% in the ongoing pregnancy rate. Also, multi-nutrient supplementation, it improves the embryo quality in the older women more than 35 years who are undergoing IVF or ICSI procedure. The DeRoss and et al. Showed that misbalanced diet can lead to infertility occurrence by 27%. So how important food micronutrients are, we know from all these studies. So, but what is the exact quantity, what is the optimum dose of each antioxidant micronutrient to increase fertility competence? Probably more RCTs need to be done on this. So we know folic acid, it is very important for DNA biosynthesis, and it is the most important component for cell division, and its deficiency can bring up that chain of hyperhomocystinemia if it is not converted into active form. It is also an effective scavenger. Then vitamin A, we know, is important natural antioxidant to inhibit lipid peroxidation, and it protects the cell against damage. And vitamin A is also very necessary for the normal spermatogenic process by stimulating the transcription of genes which are involved in the meiosis. So then vitamin B12 is, if its deficiency can lead to hyperhomocystinemia. And there is an important study by Yajnik et al. In 2008, who showed that children born to mothers with low vitamin B12 status at 18 weeks and high folate status at 28 weeks were most insulin resistant. Vitamin B6, whole grains and vegetables are very rich source, and its deficiency is an independent factor for thrombosis. Omega-3 fatty acids, they increase the beta oxidation in the sperm mitochondria and increase ATP energy source. They increase the sperm motility, and they are very important to prevent sperm cell membrane damage. So they are basically mitochondria enhancers. And their intake definitely extends the reproductive lifespan. And there has been other study which shows that intake of omega-3 fatty acids increases the chance of natural conception as well. It is very important in steroidogenesis. Apart from its anti-inflammatory effect, it has beneficial effect in growth and maturation of oocytes. It decreases the risk of anovulation, improves the embryo morphology, and associated with higher concentration of progesterone and better progesterone phase. Now, other mitochondrial enhancers are CoQ10, L-carnitine, and quercetin. They all are mitochondrial enhancer. They increase ATPs and have anti-apoptotic effect. So L-carnitine we know is a known protein amino acid, lysine and methionine with the nutraceutical mediator. It is mostly found in the nutraceuticals which are available, but this its supplementation also helps the reproductive system, especially in diseases like PCOS, endometriosis, and amenorrhea. And it has impact on the hormonal balance, and it decreases cytokine release, that is anti-inflammatory, and it decreases apoptosis. So it is a very important antioxidant, but it is mainly found in non-vegetarian food, as we see here. And in vegetarian, it is available, it is found in either milk or some asparagus or this cheese. So quercetin is another most popular flavonoid with its natural bioactive molecule. It is very less amount it is required, and it acts through glycosylation. It creates the backbone for other flavonoid components to act. and it is naturally it is found in citrus fruits, apples, tea, parsley, red wine, olives, grapes, cherries, blackberries. It is also cryoprotective. Now coming on to zinc, we know this is very important for sperm cell function, and it is involved in spermatogenesis right from beginning till end, and it increases the sperm motility. Are my slides moving? I just want to check. Yeah. And
Yes.
what are the top vegetarian food in which is high in zinc? Like wheat germ is very rich in zinc. Then comes pumpkin seeds and pine nut, chia seeds, sesame seeds, hemp seeds, cashew nuts. So they are natural source of increased good quantity of zinc. Now calcium and vitamin D, we all know that calcium plays a very critical role in Sertoli junction dynamics, sperm chemotaxis, acrosome reaction, steroidogenesis, and it enhances the sperm motility. Vitamin D deficiency is also related to poor acrosome reaction and increased risk of male infertility. So changes in the intracellular calcium, they are involved in both oocyte maturation as well as egg activation in the fertilization process. So calcium signaling, we know it has a great role in patterning of embryos. So its supplement is, its intake in the diet is very, very important. Now other vitamins like vitamin C, beta carotene, and vitamin E, if they are consumed, results have shown that there is a shorter time to pregnancy. So they also help. Iodine deficiency again is linked to infertility, and if iodine is taken adequately in the diet, the chances of being pregnant, that improves. So likewise, the zinc and selenium, they also, if they are taken, they decrease the time to pregnancy. So selenium affects the it affects the thyroid cell function, and it has a great role. It's a great antioxidant which participates in the reduction of oxidative stress. It affects the maturation of oocytes and growth. Magnesium, we know, is important in PCOS also because it increases the insulin sensitivity of the tissues. Phytoestrogens of the plant origin like lignin and comistans, they have a role. When we are taken with clomiphene, they are supposed to improve the endometrial receptivity. This has been shown in a study in 2008. This is only one study of this kind. But what does Cochrane say? Cochrane says that there is evidence based on very low quantity research suggesting that women experiencing infertility may benefit from antioxidant supplementation. So Cochrane says that there is not enough evidence, though I have quoted few studies. What are the other vitamins which are important for female fertility? Vitamin C and vitamin E. So vitamin E, we know, is very important for improving the endometrial receptivity as it increases the glandular activity and epithelial growth of the blood vessels of the endometrium. So gut microbiota, which is talked so much nowadays, we know that a healthy gut, and there are enough studies to show that lactobacilli have important role in implantation. So Western diet is shown to have increased bacteroids, phyla, and Ruminicoccus, whereas high-fat diet is correlated with bacteroids and actinobacteria, simultaneously decreasing Firmicutes and Protobacteria, which are related with the consumption of high fiber diet. So gut microbiota affects the implantation, and there is a big talk on this. I will not take that in this. So it is not only the micronutrients, although the topic suggests, the macronutrients also affects the fertility, like intake of excess of TFAs. We'll take them one by one. So gut microbiota, I was saying that dysbiosis of gut microbiota, it impairs the process of implantation, and it definitely changes the hormonal balance at the cellular level, and it also leads to endometriosis and PCOS. So gut dysbiosis has to be corrected before planning the pregnancy. So this affects the genetics, epigenetic modification, and it basically affects the transcription and decreases the if the gut dysbiosis is there, the ART success rate also decreases. So what are the nutrients which need to be taken, and what are the nutrients which need to be avoided? So carbohydrate should be 45 to 60%, proteins 10 to 35%, and healthy fat should be 20 to 35%. And we have to, one has to avoid trans fat, refined oils, excess caffeine, animal protein, alcohol, and tobacco smoking. Just a minute, please. So there are different type of diets which have been compared, the Med diet and the Western diet, and Mediterranean diet definitely scores over the Western diet. This was a review summarizing main findings of 22,786 participants with the mean age of 35 years, which showed that there was a association between the Mediterranean diet and fertility, and there was definitely, and the healthy dietary patterns increases the chances of live birth. So what is Med diet is a low intake of, and the Western diet, which is low intake of fresh fruits and vegetables and unrefined grains and fish. So that definitely disturbs the cortisol-cortisone ratio in the follicular fluid, and it reduces the number of blastocysts. High glycemic index and load, they are associated with higher fasting concentration of glucose, hyperinsulinemia, insulin resistance, and we all know it leads to PCOS. So all the beverages also which are high calorie needs to be avoided for planning fertility. So TFAs, of course, we all know have to be avoided, and it is the kind of healthy fats which should be taken, like MUFAs. They can bind with PPAR receptors and they decrease inflammation and have positive effect on the fertility, whereas high fat dairy definitely increased fertility. There was the conflict between the low fat dairy and high fat dairy. There are few studies which say that high fat dairy is good, and there are few which says that low fat dairy is good. So they have shown that more than 3 portions of dairy per day decreases the risk of endometriosis by 18% when compared to 2 servings. And whereas women consuming more than 4 portions of dairy daily during adolescence, they presented with 32% lower risk of endometriosis. So this was one study, and the last study showed that dairy consumption should be low. Whereas protein, the animal protein consumption is associated with higher risk of infertility, and plant protein is associated with increased fertility. So the protein base should also be more of a plant origin, because it improves the antral follicle count in the couples, in the antral follicle count in females who are taking plant protein. So one thing I would like to mention, that alcohol consumption, which is nowadays a fashion, this has transgenerational effect because it has significant adverse effect on spermatogenesis, seminogram, and sperm function. It can cause Sertoli cell syndrome and spermatogenic arrest, and it affects the paternal DNA methylation, and it goes down the generations, because epigenetic modulation start right from the spermatogenesis period. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ritu, for such a comprehensive talk. You have covered almost everything in the talk. And I request chairpersons to give their expert comments. Dr. Ruxana.
Hi,
if they have
good
any
afternoon,
questions.
everyone. Ritu, very nicely you have elaborated the importance of microunits on fertility. And I think these micronutrients are very necessary. The thing with the new coming generation, which we are seeing of PCOD, endometriosis, and this, their diet is very defective. They are more on the Western side of having a fast food. So while the couple is coming from, we have to take the history also. They are very fond of fast food. It is, I should say, is a status symbol, or it's like a fashion. And even the children are very much into the fast food world. So this thing also to be taken into consideration. Very well, you have elaborated everything. And the only thing we have to say to the couple before going for in preconceptional advice also, okay, diet has a very important role in improving the fertility. So both husband and wife should be careful about their diet, their personal habits, like you very well mentioned, like consumption of alcohol, tobacco, cigarettes, and this. So very nicely, I must congratulate to you where you very well elaborated everything. So only my say is this: okay, first we have to see the couple also, to look at them, what is their personal history, and should advise them that आपको हरा भरा vegetarian अच्छा खाना खाना चाहिए. That will end more the stress part. कि डॉक्टर साहब ये इलाज लेंगे तो हमको फायदा होगा. That stress should go away. So I will congratulate to you, Ritu. You have very nicely elaborated. That's.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Dr. Vatsana. Dr. Kanchan. Yes.
First of all, I want to congratulate Shalini and Rajvi for having such a good topics. That is a holistic medicine. I even like it very much, because these all are the reasons of the non-communicable diseases. They provoke all the metabolic diseases. Even in infertility, they have a special role, especially the diet. As we say, the Ritu has covered all the points very well. Our diet is very important. Whenever any patient of infertility come to me, especially because I especially give more emphasis on the diet. As we see, and I am very fond of hearing the talks of Sadhguru. He also says that whole fruit should be taken. At least the diet which you take daily, you should have a 50% and more than the whole food. First you take more of the salad, etc., the green veggies which you take, that will improve your all as such whole health, as well as the infertility is also reduced. As we say that in the male as well as in the females, many times the male persons, when the couple come to me and I take the class that you should take this thing, this is a good for diet. Male says that she has to produce, why I should take, then I have to make them understand this plays very important role even in the male infertility. So rightly said and very good, very well covered, Ritu. Thank you for making.
Thank you, Dr. Kanchan. Thank you, Dr. Sana.
Yeah, and I think Dr. is busy with the cesarean, and with this we move on to the next session of ours. Dr. Ritu, have you stopped sharing?
Yeah, I'll just do that.
Yeah, because then I'll share the.
Yeah, just 1 minute. I think mine is gone already, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So my pleasure to invite Dr. Sadhna Gupta ma'am. The whole list you all can read. It's like ma'am is such a pioneer in her field. She is so renowned academically, and ma'am has. Yeah, ma'am has been the Vice President Foxy, and she's been the Foxy representative to CEFOG also. She has held so many positions at the national and international level. and her academic accolades speak. We all know about it. And so I just invite Sadhna ma'am. And my pleasure to invite Dr. Surveen. I think, ma'am, I've already introduced another learned, very learned person and General Secretary of IFS. And my pleasure to invite Dr. Madhu Gulati, another very senior and experienced person. Ma'am is the senior consultant, and she has organized many infertility and ultrasound workshops. And welcome, ma'am. And my again pleasure to invite Dr. Rajvi Mehta, who will be talking on culture and diet. And over to you, Dr. Rajvi.
Thank you. So good evening, everybody. And I've decided to take up this topic of diet, culture, and fertility. So we had this extremely elaborate, very detailed, fantastic talk by Dr. Ritu about the role of micronutrients. And it clearly shows that if the couple is not healthy, then there is a problem in conceiving. And maybe this is nature's evolutionary way to ensure that only healthy couples give rise to healthy babies. And this is the story of evolution. However, we do see that there is a higher and higher incidence of infertility, male infertility, and most of the time we are trying to address the problem of infertility and trying to treat it or bypass it using assisted reproductive technologies. But the fact remains, why is this infertility on the rise? And there are various issues. So it can be environmental factors, lifestyle factors, etc. And today we are discussing this whole issue about diet. And diet is something which cannot be advised like medications. Diet is ingrained in our ethos, in our culture. So to ask somebody to change diet is not an easy thing because we've grown up with a particular diet. So before I start, I would like to just make a simple declaration. I'm not talking as a dietitian, a nutritionist, or a food scientist. I'm speaking, this primary presentation is mainly as a scientist and a lover of Indian culture and tradition, is meant to give some food for thought on how Indian dietary habits can and may influence fertility. So as far as the Indian tradition is concerned or Indian traditional context is concerned, food is not just a source of nutrition. Food has much more to tell us than, and it possibly may be true of other cultures too, but definitely in India, food has a strong association with religious sentiments. So a lot of food is eaten, not eaten because of religious reasons. There are rituals on how food is eaten. Certain food is not eaten on certain days. Even a non-vegetarian individual may not eat non-vegetarian food for specific days in the month or specific months in the year. And there is also a ritual on how the food is prepared, how it is cooked. And this is something which is traditionally come down, oral tradition, something learned from the previous generations and may not be documented. Food has a big emotional connect in our culture. So, with food, you can win hearts. With food, you can break hearts. So food is something, again, which is very, very crucial to our culture. Then we have, how did this food evolve? It's centuries of experimentation. I feel that the way food has evolved, the way we cook our food has come down over decades and centuries. How did one decide how to make a Bengan bharta, how it is to be made, what are the ingredients, how it is cooked, or for that matter, take any diet from any part of India. And there is a lot of experience, experimentation, although no evidence given as in the modern context, but you will have traditionally that certain foods are prepared in a certain manner, certain foods are not eaten at a particular time of their, and as I said, there's an emotional. So even the Indian texts, the scriptures talk about the food, and I'm not going to elaborate on that, but we have the Chandogya Upanishad, which actually talks that the individual's mind, individual's behavior, the energy, the speech of an individual is governed by the food. And then we have our classical Indian text from the Bhagavad Gita, which also refers to diet. It talks about diet for a yogi, but basically the Bhagavad Gita talks about not eating stale food, not eating extremely pungent food, extremely sour food. Basically, the Gita refers to moderation in eating habits. Now, coming down, part of it has remained part of the culture. And today, if there is any kind of an ailment, leave alone infertility, the patient's questions to the doctor is, what should we eat? What should we avoid? Any dietary advice? So food is so much ingrained that medications are prescribed, but the patient does want to know what should be the diet. And in many cases, unless there is a specific digestive disorder, one does not have any specific advice, because in this era of evidence-based medicine, there is no very, very specific advice. And most of the time, the advice is generic: eat healthy, eat good amounts of fruits and vegetables, avoid junk food, avoid processed food, high-fat diets. And this is general advice. And the patient themselves will say, yes, we are aware of it, but how much do they actually implement it? Now, what exactly is junk food? This is quite a question. Today, we can say, all this junk food is all the pasta, pizzas that people want to eat, noodles, the fried foods. And in fact, a website even lists Medu Vada, which is a very traditional South Indian dish available across India, as junk food because it is fried. Now, my question is, are they really junk food? Is it right to label them? Because pizzas and pastas form a staple diet of people of Italy. They eat it all the time, like we would have our roti, dal, chawal, sabji. And the only difference is they make it themselves, unlike where in most of India, because we are not familiar of how to make, or do not have the time or the skills or the intent to make the bases, we buy things ready-made. So that's a big difference. Even noodles, are they really junk food? Because if we go to China, or any of the East Asian countries, they make their own noodles like we would make a roti. So possibly when these foods have come to India, the final food product has come, but it is possibly not eaten the way it is in their country of origin. And fried foods, we label everything as fried foods. But when meat is fried, so when a Western diet, an American diet talks about fried food, they have their entire beef or meat, which is fried, deep fried. That is very different from having a pakoda, which is fried, where there is Bengal gram or chana, which is making a coating and it's fried. Secondly, the fried foods are not essentially the main part of an Indian diet. They are accessories, they are add-ons. It doesn't constitute 100% or 80% of an Indian diet. They form a small proportion of diet at certain points of the day. So I think we need to realize, and Medu Vada, the particular website, which was shocking for me, said because the dal, urad dal, which is used, is difficult to digest and it is deep fried. It is unknown that urad dal, many people have said that it is rich in alpha-3 omega fatty acids. And this is a well-known antioxidant. And this dal is a constituent of Indian diet, whether it is in the north in terms of dal or south in terms of the various fermented fruits from idli, dosa, vada, etc., and all the variations of that. So I think when we label junk food, one has to realize that unless it is prepared in some kind of authentic manner, if it is pre-packaged, rest assured it is junk food. But if prepared with the right amount of vegetables and freshly prepared, it would have nutritive properties. Now, when we look at literature on the types of diets, you find Mediterranean diets. Dr. Ritu beautifully elaborated the studies done, which clearly show the Indian diet is better than the Western diets. There are vegan diets. There are paleo diets where people want to go back to the Stone Age and eat what was eaten then. There was the general motor diets and lots of diet fads, I would call it, which come and go. But what about the Indian diet? There is no mention in any of these studies about an Indian diet. And for that matter, can we
Everyone, just a request, everyone please mute yourself
can you mute
except
them?
Dr. Rajvi. Shivam, can you mute them all?
Yeah. So what about Indian diets? We rarely hear about Indian diet. And if I may ask, as our audience is all Indian, what exactly would you call an Indian diet? I mean, will the diet of Punjab be the traditional Indian diet? The diet of Gujarat, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu? So traditional Indian diet is so variable. It depends from it's like a continent by itself. And we have our own cultures in what we eat. And today we have incorporated diet once in a while from other parts of India into our diet. But the traditional Indian diet is very variable, but there are certain commonalities. And traditional Indian diets generally have a complex permutation and combination of ingredients. Indian cooking is not simple. It's not just adding 2 ingredients, boiling out your vegetables, adding salt and pepper and eating it. It's very complex. It has a lot of ingredients. It has a lot of spices. And again, in India, you'll rarely have somebody having a meal constituting only one food type or one food cook. There will be a variety. Traditionally, there will be a variety. An Indian will not be satisfied having a sandwich, and which is very well shown if we compare the food that is provided at European conferences and Indian conferences. If the food provided at European conferences given to Indian conferences, half our delegates would be not satisfied. Also, the varieties of food, and as I said earlier, it's evolved over centuries. It's a well-balanced mix. And it sometimes intrigues me as to how did this food evolve. For example, if we talk about golgappa or pani puri, which is often considered as a junk food, actually thinking of it, it has whole grain, it has carbohydrates in the potatoes, it has pulses in chana or moong, whatever is there, it has mint leaves, which gives you enough amount of trace elements and vitamins, it has tamarind, it has jaggery. So something as junk food, and the person or the group of people who evolved to create this is quite astonishing. So basically, whichever part of India you go to, a traditional diet would have a permutation and combination of ingredients and food types. It's very rarely a single or two foods that are eaten. And a traditional balanced Indian meal would have rotis, chapatis, or rice. It would have, in many cases, the millets. It's a year of the millets, and we do find every part of India has their own millets which are grown and traditionally eaten, especially in non-urban areas. Pulses. There is a massive consumption of pulses in India. The vegetables, fermented foods is an intriguing part, whether you have the naans or you have the dhoklas or you have the idli or dosa, everywhere there is fermented. A small proportion of sweets, salads. Also, you have partially cooked. So if you go to Maharashtra, you have koshimber. If you go to Gujarat, they have the sambaro, which is partially cooked vegetables and spices. If not for the spices, maybe the British may or may not have come here. So the Indian meal is quite comprehensive and detailed. Now, there is always this question that arises that a large proportion of Indians are vegetarians, and do they have protein deficiencies because they do not consume meat? But Indians have been vegetarians for centuries, a large proportion of Indians, and even those who eat non-veg food do not essentially have it for each meal or every day of the week. But one needs to realize that India is the largest producer, consumer, and importer of pulses. Our population is 17% of the world population, but we consume 27% of the world pulses. 25% of the world pulses are produced in India. Also, a lot of the proteins come from milk and milk products. And traditional Indian diet has some form of dairy. Even as we all know, a vegetarian considers dairy as vegetarian in India. So that is also a major contributor of protein. So whether it is milk, whether it is lassi in the north of India, whether it is chas in the south and west of India, the paneer, the sandesh, and there are many food types. So we do consume protein. Now, talking of pulses, in fact, even the UN talks about 9 varieties of pulses, but the actual varieties of pulses available in India is much more. One has the entire pulse, as we all know. We have split with the shells removed. So what I'm telling is not something which is unknown. It's just trying to bring one's awareness and attention to what is available and what we consume, how rich it is. And then if we go further, if we look at the types of fruits, vegetables produced in India, the book by ICMR's National Institute of Nutrition, published a couple of years ago, talks about nutritive value of Indian foods. And they have listed 67 leafy vegetables available in India. And less familiar, there are about 39 leafy vegetables. So we nearly have more than 100 types of leafy vegetables that are grown in India. And one can imagine that if we have such a high proportion types of leafy vegetables, the kind of micronutrients, trace elements that are available to those who consume them. Even basic vegetables, we have about 51 familiar vegetables and 18 not familiar, maybe locally available in certain parts of the country, which is also a large number of vegetables, although commonly now in urban India, one has gone down to consuming only 8 to 10 types of vegetables. Even once looks at roots and tubers, we have 21 types of roots and tubers that are available and 70 less familiar. And even fruits, we just talk of apple, bananas, maybe, or oranges or lime, etc. But there are 73 varieties of fruit, types of fruit, and I'm not even referring to different varieties of a single apple. So we may have about 20 types or maybe 80 types of mangoes, but I'm just talking fruit per se. We have such a large variety which is produced in India. And if we do not start consuming that, our dietary intakes are getting narrowed down and we are consuming less and less of a variety that is the strength of Indian diet. And talking of antioxidants, because we do know that antioxidants, as Dr. Ritu rightly said, oxidative stress, the generation of reactive oxygen species is a major detrimental in terms of male infertility, causing decline in sperm counts, motility, and oxidative stress is a major problem. And that's the reason people are asked to take supplements. The concern with supplements also is that it should not be an overdose. So even antioxidants in Indian food, I was not aware, so I started researching for this, that drumstick leaves, then there is mangoes, which are all very rich in antioxidants. And these are something which is available all the time of the year, which can be eaten and consumed by people of all socioeconomic status. So why are there not many studies, publications on Indian diet? Why do we need to refer to Western literature? One, I think we take for our diet for granted. We sort of also, it is extremely difficult to study Indian diet. Being an embryologist, we always try to study culture medium in which the embryos grow. And it is a very daunting task because it's not that you remove one component and the effect shown is a direct effect of that component, because that component may be synergistically or acting with another component to have a beneficial or a detrimental effect. And when we talk of diet and we talk of so many varieties of food, and each food product, whether it is grain, whether it is fruit, whether it is vegetable, also contains many other things. So it is a very complex thing to study diets and have studies on diet, because it's a very variable. Very rarely you will find an Indian diet where an individual has exactly the same thing 7 days a week. There will be a lot of variety in Indian diet. Even if they have a dal, there'll be 5-10 types of dals that are had during the week. So there is also no standard Indian diet. So moment we talk, people in the West talk of Indian curry, I'm sure all of us are amused. What is Indian curry? What exactly is Indian curry? I mean, any liquid that is made with some spices is not, and some pulses is not Indian curry. It is also, like I said, complex and difficult, but also it is not just the ingredients, but how it is prepared and with what it is eaten that matters. So you will rarely have in India where somebody eats only rice, only chapati. You will always have roti being eaten with sabji. Whether you go to the north, there's rajma chawal. Whether you go to the west, it is dal rice. Whether you go to the south, it is sambar rice. So wherever we go, there will be something eaten with something else. It's never eaten that somebody goes and has dal as a soup and just drinks off the dal. So it is something which is, there is a lot of combination. Certain foods are not eaten with certain foods. And there is also the timing. So for example, if you land up in Pune and ask for a misal, which is a dish prepared with a lot of pulses, a traditional hotel will not serve, restaurant will not serve it to you in the evenings. They will stop serving it after 4 or 5 o'clock, possibly because it's difficult to digest. So there is a lot that has gone in the understanding of food. And I would like to state here that when there is no evidence which is there in the means of publication, does not mean that there is a negative evidence, there's no evidence. It is something which has been transmitted. I'm not saying that because there is no evidence doesn't mean that it is also we have to keep our eyes closed and accept it, but we need to really try to understand what this tradition is. And the food habits across the world differ extensively. The major is the climatic conditions. So whether even in India, northern India and southern India, climatic conditions vary. The consumption of even the basic grain differs from wheat to rice. Even if one goes to China, northern China and southern China, the basic grain consumption differs. So it's also what is available locally. So traditionally, one always ate local food. There was no chance of eating the kiwis, etc. Not to say that I'm against using foods from other parts of the world. My concern is that they should not become the major and main part of the diet because literature says so. We can include it in our diet. We can have it for taste once in a while for a change. Then the cooking methodologies. that is a big thing because there's a total transformation of the food when the way you cook it. The eating combinations, as I said, and most important is eating proportions. When you have such a variety, you can't overeat one particular thing to a great extent. And here I would like to give an example where I had an American friend who was very surprised when people added a spoon of ghee to their rice or the roti, and he had never seen ghee. So he asked, "What is this?" He said, "It's ghee, it's very good for health. And, it keeps the joints lubricated, etc." Somebody told him. After 8 months, when we saw him in San Diego, he was all bloated. And one wondered that what had happened, I mean, was he unwell? The poor guy had understood that something that is good has to be consumed more and more. So he started with 1 spoon of ghee. After few weeks, added 1 more spoon. By the end of 6 months, he was having one whole bowl of ghee because it is good. Now, the fact is that because we grow up in this culture, we wouldn't have even ever thought that anybody could do this. We wouldn't have even thought of advising anybody, "Oh, it's good." And you understand how much would you eat. But that's where the difference comes when you incorporate food from other cultures. Something which is sort of understood, taken for granted, is not specified, and the proportions get totally distorted. And the same food which is considered good in moderate amounts or minimal amounts can become a big problem or danger. Same thing with pickles, for example. It's a part of diet, but the amount of pickle. Now, if somebody is not aware and thinks it's a vegetable, so the proportion of vegetable you take, totally different culture, and has a nice full serving of pickles, what's going to happen to that individual? So, these things often are never told, but as the world gets flat, it's important to realize how everything was done in moderation, proportion that is exist. So as I said, the major crux of Indian diet is the varieties of foods, varieties of ingredients, but in moderation, in the right combination. And I think it's very important to regularly have local food. Any apple which stays for a month, I wonder how my stomach is going to handle it, how is it going to digest it, and how is it going to hide it, and also at the right time. And I think if we follow the traditions, to a great extent, it's going to be a balanced diet in moderation. So even if you are a great lover of dal, but you have a little rice, a chapati, and some vegetables, and the accessories, be it papad or pickle, there's a limit to amount of dal you can consume. So automatically one gets into moderation. So yes, is dietary habits are one of the causes for the changes that we see. Yes, there is less and less of local food, and with urbanization, what is local? There is nothing local. Foods come from far, processed food have become, people have no time to cook or get foods cooked, or you start getting pre-cooked foods. The Zomatos, etc., get you food, and there are many things which have changed the dietary habits. Now, coming to the main crux is that I wanted to give a background of understanding the traditional Indian diets. I'm not blindly saying that you go for it and go, start following it, but just to have some food for thought about that and the evidence. And I think Dr. Ritu has already covered that foods rich in polyunsaturated fatty acids improve sperm counts, and which foods can have them: walnuts, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, peanuts, flaxseed. Now, groundnut oil, sesame oil has been part of our tradition. I mean, most of India, except for certain parts, or they use mustard oil. Today, we have a variety of oils, and one needs to see how they compare in this. Trans fat deteriorates male infertility, and we know it's in commercially baked and commercial fried foods. So again, your meal, if it is only fried food, a burger day in and day out with French fries, then it's totally different. But 5 or 6 pakoras on a rainy day, I think may not be as detrimental as it is made out to be. And antioxidants, the amlas, the spices are all rich in antioxidants. So if we're going to follow a Western diet and start removing this, we may be actually losing out on what has been something that is going to help us. Dairy and fertility, Dr. Ritu explained that it is a very controversial, and where some people say that oligoastenospermic men were those who had a higher intake of full fat dairy products. But here we need to bear in mind that a lot of dairy today is contaminated. Contaminated, not essentially adulterated, but the cattle feed. The cattle are fed with hormones. The cattle are fed with antibiotics. So this is going to alter the whole property of the dairy. So again, it's not dairy to blame, but the generation and contamination of food is a big issue. Mercury has been found and heavy metals have been found in fish. Pesticides residues in milk and meat. In fact, any biological fluid has been found to have pesticide residues, and pesticide residues on fruits and vegetables. So while we look for long-lasting fruits and vegetables, it is also not get spoiled is something which should concern us, because it has certain substances which may not be even broken down by our own body and may be responsible not only for infertility, but also the concomitant rise in cancers. And pesticides, phthalates are one of those. So in a meta-analysis of 1,944 papers on diet and fertility, they clearly say that omega-3 fatty acids, and Dr. Ritu has already talked about this, are associated. So if you have a rich diet in all these omega-3, mainly antioxidants, there is a improved sperm count. And then there is something which is considered a pro-fertility diet. And if one follows the pro-fertility diet, then the probability of live birth increases. And this includes supplementation with vitamin B complex, low rather than high pesticide produced, including of food, whole grains, dairy, soy foods, etc., rather than meats. And if we want to take advice from Western studies, then one needs to understand that they need to be taken in the Indian context. It is not possible, I would say, an average Indian would not be very happy to have a Western diet. They would prefer it like a change, but basically they would still be going in for the traditional diets. And if we are saying that reduce the intake of sugars, one needs to know what the world is. And here I would like to show this is something that the National Geographic had done, which talked about various calories in different countries. So for example, the consumption of calories per person, if you look at sugar and fat, the average consumption in the world is 20%. United States is 37%. And it's
Dr.
no wonder.
Rajvi,
Yeah.
Dr. Rajvi, are you showing this National Geographic in some?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
it's not coming. You press some hyperlink, right?
Yeah, it's not showing?
No.
Oh, okay, let me
Just
see.
try again.
Yeah. Now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So
yes.
what it is showing is that in India, for example, sugar and fat consumption is about 19%. In the US, it is 37%. And mind you, this is 2011 data. So if US advises us on what to eat, we are already in a different zone already. Or for example, if you look at the amount of meat, world meat consumption, the world calorie consumption per person for meat is 9%. In India, it is only 1%. In US, it is 13%. So already when people advise not to eat red meat, it is not really being consumed to that extent in India. If one talks about dairy and egg, this is also much lower in India. And whole grain, India already consumes 45% on average person's diet consists of whole grains. So, and this is 2011 data. There would be variation. Unfortunately, they haven't updated it. But this clearly tells us that when we talk of diet, one has to take into consideration what is existing in one particular nation. And here you can see that the Americas actually have a very altered diet, North America, South America, very high sugar diet. But if you look at countries like India, China, there is much lesser consumption of sugars, although it is increasing. So having said that, one second, sorry. So I think there has been some review which is published about 10 years back by an Indian author, which talks about association of Western diet and lifestyle with decreased fertility, but they have not provided a lot of Indian data. It is more of subjective, trying to compare Western diet with Indian diet. And in a very interesting study coming from Kolhapur, where Dr. Sachin Kulkarni and his team looked at PCOS diet in Western India, and what they found is they made 4 types of diet. One is the rural vegetarian diet, where they had only one kind of grain. So either it was rice or roti. Then they had the semi-urban vegetarian, which had rice and roti, but vegetarian enough amount of fruit, vegetables, and etc. The semi-urban non-vegetarian, what was similar, but they added on meat, and the urban non-vegetarian, which include meat and lot of sweetened food. And you can clearly see the incidence of hirsutism, 22% in the rural vegetarian to 89% urban non-vegetarian, which consume processed food and sweetened beverages. Even if you look at the BMI in the PCOS women, 18.4 versus 30.8. And even if one looks at the fasting insulin, 7.1 versus 13.8, insulin resistance, 2.4 in the urban non-vegetarian. It's not just non-vegetarian, I repeat, it's processed food and sweetened foods, and AMH is also higher. So clearly it shows that, you know, while we're adopting the Western lifestyle, it is at the cost of certain local dietary habits. We are also bringing with it a lot of issues in the reproductive system and other systems. So a dimension of diet is not just what you eat, it's how you prepare it, with what you eat, when you eat, how much you eat, and how often you eat that. Because it may not matter if you have a pizza or a pre-cooked meal once in 10 days, but if you're going to have it every day, then it's going to make a difference. So I would summarize to say diet may play a much bigger role in fertility than currently attributed. It's time we do many more studies to really study or the impact of Indian dietary habits on fertility, which is primarily focusing on moderation in food, the timing of food, and the blend of foods. And oral traditions exist, and doesn't mean that because it's traditional, it is right, it is perfect. We need to verify them and see how much of it is actually applicable today. But it is very clear that we need to throw out the processed, pre-cooked, and sweetened beverages, which are surely a culprit, and they need to go out of that. So with this, I thank you all for your patient listening. It has been quite a long talk, but I hope it has generated food for thought, because that was the purpose of this talk, rather than provide information. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Rajvi. In fact, what you said, I hope it has given you food for thought. It has really given us a lot of food for thought. And the way you presented it was really very nice. And, you know, like, congratulations to the IFS Society to having this part of the SIG holistic meetings. It's really very good. You know, I mean, we have to do more of these type of meetings. And thank you for inviting me to this lovely session. Thank you so much,
ma'am. Sadhna, ma'am, your comments?
Thank you, Rajiv. Actually, what I was thinking that when Shalini invited, your presentation echoed my all thoughts, which many times I don't reveal to like everyone, because today the people are so technical savvy that anything you talk about the basic food and nutrition, they are not happy. So actually, first of all, congratulations, which I always put in my all GDM and PCOS and fertility, that it is the Indian diet which is complete in every sense. It is always, we have been so wise, agar hum chola banate to usme adrak ko nimbu dalte hain so that it can be digested, what time of humko kya kis samay khana hai. Or what I am saying, मैं आपसे थोड़ा हिंदी में बात करूंगी, because it is something which is where this topic is very, very close to my heart. Very, very important thing about diet is, it is something, किसी जमाने में मैं देखती थी कि लोगों को फैमिलीज में, लाइक हम जब भी छोटे होते थे, लाइक अभी ये सावन का महीना है, ये नहीं खाना है, अभी सर्दी है तो उड़द की दाल खानी है, और अगर गर्मी है तो हमको ये वाली दाल खानी है, आप बीमार हैं, आपको बुखार है तो आपको ये खाना है. I used to remember, let me finish when you will. So I used to remember that it was the treatment actually, and we used to get cured. We didn't have that much medicine or something. वो जो लोगों को जो साइंस की अंदाज थी, somehow this is something very point of my great concern. And Rajiv, you have become one of my darling thing. I am not going to leave you now, because हम लोगों ने science, like every time now, every patient says to us, हमको क्या खाना है ना, हमको नारियल का पानी पीना है, हमको केसर खाना है, हमको कीवी खाना है, हमको अमरूद नहीं खाना है, हमको केला सेब नहीं खाना है, हमको कीवी खाना है. Something which is monstrous forces are there which are making us very less confident of our own Indian diet, which is complete, which is according to nature, according to age, according to everything. And this confidence, actually, I really congratulate that this momentum have to be taken along. One thing I will add to it, that how we eat is also very important with all these things. What we are seeing now, people are eating food with their on mobile, on TV, on seeking video, all toxicity of WhatsApp. And my all children have read in the Seshu Mandir, and the Japanese, like we, when we, agar food aata hai, then jo bhojan mantra hota hai, in Japanese we have the prayer ki kitne logon ne iska effort kiya hai so that we have the food on our table. And actually we are, jab hum khate the to hum, like we used to remember, हमारी दादी ऐसा गोभी की सब्जी बनाती थी, आज इसमें शायद ये नहीं पड़ा. We were so like involved in that food, और बहुत कम खाने से हमारा satiety center पूरा हो जाता था. Something we have to see, that our young generation is lacking concentration right from the childhood. They are pushing someday here, someday here, and that the food to be eaten with the full concentration, with full respect, is also very, very important. So we can say endless thing to it, but I congratulate Rajvi how beautifully you have said all part of India have the different thing, but something is common. It is a combination of protein, carbohydrate, vegetable, and the dairy product. And we have certain a great culture. हम लोग मिठाई भी थोड़ा खाते हैं, उसके बाद पान भी थोड़ा खाते हैं, and it is something to be proud of and never to be rated. Something, one question I said from the AIMS, something that do we have studies? You also pointed out that we cannot have studies. अगर किसी को याद होगा, like it was around 9 months ago, किसी ने Indian diet को कहा कि वो बहुत bore है something in the social media. And they say that the Chinese or something Thai diet and something is very exotic, that we have to always be like, we have to resist it on social media. We should not accept this thing. And one thing about, again, even IFS also join is celebrities selling the junk food. And it is not the junk food, it is a Bansamat pizza, it is a cold drink, it is a Coca-Cola, it is a something, all celebrities at the McDonald's portion, because when I travel alone, I don't know what to eat because everything is so big. So something we have to look into it, and hearty congratulations for it. It was really, really very good to listen to you. Over to Madhu, you wanted to add.
Yeah, I wanted to add कि in an Indian context, are fruits which are available. गर्मियों में हमारे को खीरा होगा, ककड़ी होगा, खरबूजा होगा, तरबूज होगा, to beat the dehydration, to keep us cool. विंटर्स के फल अलग होंगे. विंटर्स में गुड़ का उत्पादन होता है, गुड़ उस समय मिलेगा, उस समय ड्राई फ्रूट्स ज्यादा होते. तो हमारे पूर्वजों या हमारी जो पुरानी जो है, अगर आप उसमें जाओ, there is so much into it, so much into it. During the COVID, how much people dependent on our Indian things for treatment and all. तो बहुत चीजें. I still remember my dadi and nani, sitting, वो धूप में वो सुखाते थे वो बीज, खरबूजे के बीज और वो सब. हम लोग को कोई बोले I once tried it, मेरे तो सब सड़ गए. तो कुछ मतलब they used to do these things so nicely. सब अच्छा घर में बना के रखना, घर में यूज करना. और ये जो हम लोग का आजकल जो जाड़ों में वो जो कुचुम्बा बोलते हैं या क्या बोलते हैं, या अचार कह लो, या इस टाइप के कॉन्डिमेंट्स होते हैं, बेसिकली डाइजेस्टिव थिंग्स. पान भी है तो वो डाइजेस्टिव के लिए, अचार भी जो थोड़ा होता है वो डाइजेशन में एड करता है. आप जो वो पीते हैं वो कौन सा पानी, गाजर और उसमें वो सब डाल वाल के, डाइजेस्टिव. विंटर्स में अगर हम बहुत हेवी आइटम्स भी खाते हैं, साग है, मक्की की रोटी है, ये है, तो वी हैव कांजी टू help you. और में जितना हम सोचते हैं, जितना हम deep इसमें जाते हैं, I think our food, we have thousands of varieties. Our food, our, everything is best. I think
Very
India is the
rightly said.
best.
Yeah. Thank you, Madhu ma'am, for your kind words. Dr. Sureen, are you there?
Yeah, Rajvi, I just want to congratulate you because you gave an entirely different perspective. I mean, why do we consider pizzas as junk food? It's staple food for the people of the West, and they are also fairly healthy. So it's a matter that it is made outside and it is not made properly. If we make everything at home, I think it could be as good as the Indian diet. The noodles could be as good. The pizzas could be wheat based. They could be just as good. I don't think that any food is junk food. It's the preparation of the food which probably makes it junk, and the quantity of consumption which makes you, unhealthy. So I think what you put forward is very, very nice. And also, we really need studies on food. I mean, diet has not had substantial amount of studies in fertility. And as an SIG, if you would take it up, if you would take up surveys, men eating red meat, not eating red meat, what are the sperm counts? We do these huge surveys, and we could probably publish great data from India. So congratulations once again, and over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sureen. Dr. Rajvi, hats off to you. Truly, it was actually a mesmerizing talk. The way you talked about, I mean, none of us would have thought that we always label pizza as a junk food, but we never thought about it, like what Dr. Sureen said. So, I mean, the less it would be for your talk. Yes, truly, we all need to waken up and consider Indian diet, which is very versatile. There are many questions in the chat box, which I think there is a very renowned nutritionist with us also. So we'll take questions at the end. Request to all the audience, you can start putting the questions in your chat box, and we'll just take it up at the end. And to continue further, I would just go with the next session. Dr. Manjusha is not there, so I'm doing her part. I'm just introducing myself. I am a senior consultant at Max and co-convener for this SIG holistic approach. So my next talk would be with Dr. Sheekha, and my pleasure to introduce her. Dr. Sheekha is the founder and managing director of NutriWell Health. Welcome, Dr. Sheekha, which is actually a big company and an organization which is basically working for promoting the preventive healthcare. So it's not only the treatment part, it is there like promoting the preventive healthcare. Her CV is very impressive, very long. To cut it short, I would say that she runs a very big organization. She has been on the weekly column for 10 years in the national newspaper, which is the Hindustan Times. And she is advisor to FSSAI. That speaks everything, that she's advisor to the Indian food regulator. So welcome, Dr. Sheekha. And
Dr. Shalini, thank you so much for inviting me. I've been listening, and it's such a pleasure to see all the doctors and their interest in the area of nutrition. So just a small correction. Actually, I'm a medical doctor from Maulana Azad Medical College. I have not done any course in nutrition. So technically, I'm not a nutritionist. But when I was a junior resident at GB Pant, and over there, as we know, it's a super specialty hospital with in the cardiology, there are a lot of deaths happening. I think I started asking myself that what am I doing? Why am I focusing on healthcare, which would be at a tertiary level? Why am I not able to do something at an early stage? Because in medicine, we are taught that lifestyle disorders come from our lifestyle. So at that point, I think I would say that there was this reflection and insight when I thought that I should work in the area of preventive healthcare. So I have a large team of about 100 nutritionists who work in our organization. But there are a couple of things which I want to give a background on. The first thing which I want to share with all the doctors, and because it's such a pleasure to listen to all the doctors and their interest in nutrition, when I entered from the field of medicine into nutrition, And I started asking questions. And since I was an outsider in the field of nutrition, I started looking at all the researches published. The first thing which I realized is the calorie theory is completely unscientific. The calorie theory is not based on understanding human body, human metabolism. It is based on principles of chemistry, which were taken from steam engines, and they were incorrectly posted and pasted in human metabolism. So the whole calorie theory is based on the principle of combustion, which is burning. It has nothing to do with human metabolism. It has nothing, there is no understanding about ATP. There is no understanding about digestion. There is no understanding about the biological impact of food on the human body, the physiology of digestion. So the first thing I would request is, as doctors, as scientific people, we have to not talk about calories at all, because it is a flawed theory. It is incorrect. And I say it with confidence because for now almost 20 plus years, we have been working with patients, over 51,000 patients. And with our eyes, we have seen how wrong the calorie theory is. So when I started working in this field, and obviously I was accountable as a doctor to other people, to the field of science, I started looking at it. The calorie theory is so wrong. What is the correct way to follow? And that's the time I stumbled upon Vedic nutrition. That is nutrition which has been written in Vedas. The nutrition which has been written as a deep science in Vedas. So I'm sure all of you would wonder, if Vedic nutrition is written in the Vedas, why isn't it followed? The reason it was not followed is because even Ayurvedic doctors started following the whole system. Instead of going into holistic treatment, they started giving Ayurvedic medicine as the first line of treatment. So in Ayurveda, whatever knowledge they were taught about nutrition, they have just ignored it, and they also jumped straight away into giving Ayurvedic medicines. And that is why the Vedic part of nutrition, the Vedas, how they spoke about nutrition, is so scientific. It is so engaging, so deeply rooted in logic, that I thought that this was a treasure house of knowledge. And that's why as a company, what we did is we combined not the calorie theory, but the other good practices of modern nutrition, along with Vedic nutrition, along with medical science. And that's what we created, a Vedic protocol, and what we use on our patients for preventive healthcare. So that was the first thing which I wanted to bring in immediately. The second thing which I want to bring in is that the biggest reason why nutrition advisory doesn't work is because of, one, it is a hodgepodge of many things which is not given in a clear form. Like, for example, some part would be calorie, some part would be eat this because this has been published or this has been published. So in nutrition, it is a holistic understanding of the human body which works. It doesn't work in a reductionist way. And to give you an example, when I looked at how Vedas understood fertility, so the Vedas understood fertility as an energy called ojas, which is created at the end of the food being digested by 7 layers of the body. So in the Vedic text, it's been written clearly how fertility happens or how it is reduced. That means if the 7 digestive layers of the body, if there is a problem, then the ojas or the fertile fluid will not be created. There will be problem in what we today understand as reduced sperm count or as ovum which is not healthy. It was written about in the Vedic text. And those 7 layers were what? Those 7 layers were starting from the digestive system to lymph, to blood, to muscles, to bone, to fat. All these layers were described in great detail, that how the energy filters through each layer, and each layer contributes to that energy till the time it finally becomes reproductive energy, and it was called Shukradhatu or tissue. That is the second point which I wanted to bring in. So in Vedic texts, a great deal has been written about what we today call as personalized nutrigenetics. or nutrition according to a genetic profile, in the Vedic text, it was clearly written about personalized nutrition. And they called it a bioenergy. And the bioenergy was based on how the body was constructed, which was basically alluding to a genetic understanding of each individual, or how or in simple terms, how each individual metabolized food. So metabolic types were described in detail, that the metabolic type will ultimately digest this food in a different way. That the physiology of digestion was different in different metabolic types. So not only that, food was also in correlation with three things. The first correlation was the genetic type or the metabolic type. So like we say genotype, in Vedic texts, they have been describing phenotype, or how the genotype would manifest as a phenotype, and looking at the phenotype, how do you diagnose the metabolic type? So based on that, it was written that there are three factors which influence health. The first is the phenotype and the kind of metabolic type that phenotype has. The second is how the food is created, right from the seed to the processing, to the cooking, to the eating. And the third was season, and then there was age. So all these factors together were the factors which would influence how a food was finally digested, absorbed, assimilated, and in the end, it would give rise to three things. One was fertility, called ojas. The second was prana, which is your oxygen levels in the body. And the third was tejas. So tejas was the digestibility, transformative power of the body. And the transformative power was how you convert any kind of food ultimately into human energy. So when I looked at all these things, I realized that it is a science which is a lost science, which needs to be resurrected, because this is the science, I think, post-pandemic, which should be very, very useful. And I'm so glad to hear that people are talking about why not Indian studies, why not studies on Indian patients. Finally, I would also like to touch upon, and we can then go to the questions, is when India got her independence, and few years after that, when the Green Revolution started, 14, 15,
Please mute everyone except Dr. Sheekha. Everyone, please mute.
Today, 65,000 tons of pesticide is used. I think in a simple term, I would say we are eating poison. So it is very important. Fertility cannot be improved unless people eat food which is organic, or which is not consisting of the heavy poisonous doses of pesticide. Each pesticide, we all know, they are either neurotoxins, or most of them are fat soluble. They are stored in the body for many, many, many years. So we are actually eating so many poisons every day that unless we actually clean up the diet, especially for people who are looking at fertility, these poisons are going all the way into the Shukra Dhatu and accumulating there. So while on the intestine or in other areas, they still may go through, but eventually they all are accumulating in the fluid, reproductive fluid, and that's causing many issues which we all are aware of. So these are the broad points I wanted to lay out. Of course, over to you, Dr. Shalini. And
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Sheekha, for highlighting these important points. We have less of time actually, so we'll be very brief. And so since this is basically a seminar related to infertility, I think there are patients also, there are doctors also, mainly the infertility doctors and patients. So we'll be more specific to infertility. So there were many questions in the chat box also, Dr. Sheekha. Do you advocate some particular diet, or does diet affects the fertility also? Like we see there are a lot of pesticides you mentioned very rightly, and environmental pollutants, they all decrease the fertility. So in particular, the very common question that we get it in our OPD is, ma'am, what should we eat and what shouldn't we eat? So very briefly, if you could just highlight those, like we have do's and don'ts. So we have what to eat and what not to eat. So maybe Dr. Sheekha.
Yeah, the first thing which I would say is that any product which is coming in a box has so many chemicals that I am 100% sure that it's going to damage the fertility. Because all those chemicals are basically hormonal disruptors. They disrupt your hormones. So whatever you might do, they are going to disrupt your hormone because they are alien to the body. So anything, if people are wanting to become fertile, the first thing they have to do is they cannot eat out of a box, because the color, the flavor, the taste, everything is coming from a chemical, because none of the natural flavors can survive on a shelf for 18 months. So all these are artificial. So first thing is that has to be removed out of the food. Second, like I said, organic food has to be taken, because the amount of chemicals coming in the food, they're all the way going to the Shukradhatu or the fertility reproductive fluids. So those are the two big things. Third thing, like I said in Vedic nutrition, that it is important to understand that when we are eating food, it has to be according to our body type. For example, we have already spoken about milk, and the way the amount of milk which is produced in India, we don't even have those many cows. So a lot of it is synthetic milk which is coming, which is mixed with plant oils and other things. So I would say that unless you have the source where it's coming from, or you're living on a farm, I would say if you want to get fertile, please do not have this synthetic milk which is available all over India in large amounts.
What's your say on the Amul milk and the mother dairy milk, which majority of us in living in the urban cities, which we are consuming? So what's your say on that?
See, I would say like mother dairy, when it checks the milk, you'll be surprised to know it's not checking whether the milk is coming from a cow. It's only checking the fat content of the milk. So if plant oils are added, and today we all know that palm oil, which is imported from many other countries, that is toxic to the body, because not because palm oil is bad, but because the way it's refined, heavy chemicals are used. It is not cold pressed. Those palm oil, to extract palm oil, heavy chemical refining is done, which is very damaging to the body.
Very right.
Can I, Shalini, can I interrupt in this?
Yes.
Dr. Sheekha, actually, this is something about you said, Veda, because I also read a lot of religious things. But what is something where we are at the crossroad? So much of population, and every person have got so much of need, and somehow, be it a use of pesticide, be it a use of the chemicals to like grow, be it a genetic engineer to have the increase in the our crops and our productivity, big size food. Actually, only understanding can really change the thing when we have such a large population, and every population have a lot of requirement. It is not so that the simple people are having less, like everybody is consuming so much. So this is something that it is a, I think myself totally confused, because we have to feed the population. Everybody needs. Initially, we have to take paneer only once in a year. Now, so many parties, every time there is an event, and so much of paneer dish, where this thing will come from. And we are going to the artificial thing and the genetic engineering, which are actually making the thing very, very complex. So just by saying we have the knowledge, we have the understanding, because but we are not on the slippery road in the today's time. So what's your takeaway about it?
Ma'am, excellent question. And I will give you a shocking information that India has enough food for its population and even for exports. The reason why it is not available is because it is rotting in storage godowns. The transportation of India is so poor that most of the fruits perish before they reach the mandis. Most of the grains which are stored in godowns or in these large warehouses, they are not protected properly, and rats and rodents eat them up, and they're destroyed during rains. The problem is not of manufacture or agriculture. The problem is logistics, which is carrying the food, the transportation, and the storage. That's where the biggest problem is, and India loses 1/3 of its food to all these conditions. So we have enough, we can even export food, but we are mismanaging the entire journey.
Yeah. So in nutshell, Dr. Sheekha, what I understood is basically the processed food is basically what the people should avoid because they are like the processing material used is not healthy, right? And a lot of questions they do come up, especially the vegan diet, the vegan diet. And basically, if you could just touch on the vegan diet, the anti-inflammatory diet, do's and don'ts with the anti-inflammatory diet for the couples who are there in this webinar.
Okay, so I will, because it's a short time, I'll give some basic tips because I'm sure everybody's looking for basic tips. So the first thing is that inflammation in the body is happening post-pandemic, it's happening. And now it's become worse because all the foods which are coming, which are packed foods, are causing inflammation in the body. And inflammation will reduce infertility definitely. So the first thing which we have to do is we have to buy organic vegetables and every day have vegetable juice, which could be of beetroot, tomato, it could have bottle gourd, it could have a little bit of mint, it could have ginger, peppermint. So one tall glass of vegetable juice made from organic vegetables every day will reduce the inflammation up to a significant level. Second thing is, when we are talking about oils, please stick to cold pressed oils because oils damage the body the maximum because they store the chemical in the oil. The chemical is stored in the oil, and this because our bodies, the sperms, the ovum also have a lot of fat. This goes right across into our reproductive tissues. So the oil has to be cold pressed, and any oil, whether it's sesame oil, peanut oil, whichever oil you use, make sure it's a cold pressed oil. It's not a refined oil. The third thing is there are many, many fruits and superfoods. For example, amla has been spoken about. Triphala is actually a combination of 3 fruits, which is amla, behar, and harar. And it is fantastic for the gut biome. And this has been written about thousands of years in Ayurveda, that the gut is the site of health. So if the gut is protected, the body is protected. So I call it a supercomputer, which analyzes the plant genome and the human genome and tells you what to eat and what to throw out in a vomit or what not to digest. But the gut biome is getting affected because of the kind of foods we are having. So Triphala is one of the very ancient things. It is over the counter, can be taken by everybody. And it is something which I think all of us Indians know about. It is a combination of 3 things. Amla is one of the most powerful sources of vitamin C. Then I would say that so many other things, like for example, in Masuri, Guransh is a flour which is consumed. It is a power-packed flour full of antioxidants. So the local population uses Guransh. It is basically called rhododendron flour. Rhododendron flour in season, when it comes to Delhi, it comes in powders. That is excellent as a powerful antioxidant. Similarly, sea buckthorn. Sea buckthorn is a small berry which grows across the Himalayas at high altitudes. The DRDO, which is Defense Research Institute, has converted sea buckthorn into powders and they give it to all their army officers. The same sea buckthorn is extremely powerful for reproduction, for improving reproductive capability, and even for skin and hair. So sea buckthorn, rhododendron, and small things like so much of tea and coffee, like 3-in-1 coffee people are using, which is basically the powder, the white milk powder, is harmful for the body. It worsens the diabetes. It increases the inflammation. So it is better to use things like you have so many infusions, like for rose infusion, hibiscus infusion, green teas. If all of them are used instead of these ready-to-drink coffees and ready-to-drink 3-in-1 teas, then the inflammation will come down. Similarly, I would say that a lot of people are doing intermittent fasting, which is incorrect. Recently, there was a research that people who are hungry till 2:30, 3 o'clock have a higher risk of esophageal and other ulcers and cancers. Now, the sad part is that intermittent fasting has been picked up and being followed across the industry without any scientific justification, just because everybody feels it's a fad. So I think the important thing is that whichever diet plan we are talking about, it has to be holistic. It cannot be a reductionist diet plan. It cannot be, oh, I want to lose 5 kilos, so I want a reductionist diet plan, because That is how the whole low calorie diets came in, and that's how starvation started. So I think it is very important. In case of triphala, normally it is suggested that triphala 1 teaspoon has to be taken before sleeping with lukewarm water, 1 glass of lukewarm water. And it is called a rasayan in Vedas. Rasayan means something which rejuvenates the entire body and rejuvenates each and every tissue.
Okay, very, very nicely highlighted, Dr. Sheekha. So, like we also read about the, intermittent fasting, people come to us. So the logic and the scientific reason that we see it in the literature is because once you are on the, intermittent fasting, there is a great potential loss of the micronutrients. And so if your diet is, deficient in the micronutrients, now these micronutrients are a very essential part of so many enzymes and structures which are very vital to our body. So if there is a deficiency of the micronutrients, then certainly your body cannot cope up. And as you said, there is a high incidence of cancers, the antioxidant potential goes down, and then we, as a person, we fall prey more to getting ill and, getting ill. So my next question to you would be, then any specific harmful, apart from the processed food, like what would you comment upon the, like Dr. Rajvi gave a very beautiful talk about the pizzas, burgers. So what would your comment on those junk food would be? Like, are they truly junk? Like if they are prepared outside, obviously we are eating the outside food. So what's your say on that junk food? Because young generation certainly is very fond of, even our children are very fond of this junk food. So what's your say on that? I mean, patients ask, do we totally ask them to avoid? Or there is a certain proportion, okay, we can limit to how much limit? In general, obviously, it cannot be in just percentages, but in general, what's your comment on that?
So the first thing is, the definition of junk food would be a food which steals more vitamins, minerals, and nutrients from your body than it gives your body. So when we say junk, anything like, for example, it's also called ultra processed, ultra refined food. Most of the pizzas which are coming in India, they basically are made from, firstly, flour, which is bleached. There is a chemical bleach used to make it very, very white. It's not the way Italians eat it in traditional villages. So bleach is used. Second thing is, there are dough softeners which are used, again a chemical, so that it becomes very soft and easy to eat. Because any pizza which is made from natural wheat or wheat which is not using chemicals will become hard after a while. So by the time it reaches your table, it will be hard. So because from the time they make the dough to the time it reaches you, there is a time lag, and they don't want it to become hard. The same problem with the breads also. They're using dough softeners. They are using emulsifiers, which are all chemicals, which make it last longer. So all these chemicals which are added to the dough, right from bleaching to emulsifiers to making it last longer, they all damage the gut biome. So if one has to have a pizza, it should be made the way Italians make it, and not the way which is, the way they are making it with, adding a lot of chemicals. So that is number one. Number two, when we talk about any fried food, most of the fried food is made in refined oil. This refined oil has chemicals which are added to change the color of the oil, because natural oil is dark and it has sediments. And people do not know that these sediments and colors are changed by adding chemicals to the refined oil. Not only that, normally seeds have to be pressed to extract the oil. But commercial organizations, which are very, very large organizations, making these oils in tons, they don't want to waste even that much of seed. So what they do is, instead of crushing the seed, they add all the seeds in a chemical and then dry out the chemical. But the chemical doesn't dry out completely. It stays in that seed, in that end mixture. So what I'm trying to say is that process is wrong. So a medu vada made in that refined oil is definitely junk food. But if it is made in a traditional way, then it's not junk food.
Right. Very rightly. I think the more we hear about it, the more scary it becomes, actually, because the processing and all, it is actually very scary. So I think with this, we just take like a few questions which were there in the chat box, Dr. Sheekha.
Yes.
And like there were, let me just go through the chat box. There was a question, please guide how to take Trifla, which you already said that it is to be taken at the bedtime with lukewarm water. Western grains about oats, are they adulterated too?
So, like I said, the problem with many of these grains is that they have a very high level of pesticides. And the oats, which are with their natural cover, are much better. But rolled oats, which have the cover removed, which have the skin removed, like Mehta, the way polished rice is is higher in glycemic index. So the more you refine and polish it, the more the fiber goes down, and then it impacts the insulin and the hormones.
Okay. Somehow this chat box is not moving up. Can anyone read the questions? Dr. Sheekha, can you just read it? The above, because मेरा खाली वो western grain से ही दिखा रहा है, ऊपर नहीं दिखा रहा है.
Okay, so then
can we cure ovulation and egg quality naturally by taking good diet?
So I would say, like when we talk about ovum, when we talk about sperm, at the end of the day, it is all created from food. So diet is I would say, the fundamental treatment which should accompany all treatments. When we are talking about zinc, when we're talking about vitamins, when we talk about molybdenum, all of them are coming from food. That is the raw material. So if it is toxic, if it is deficient, then obviously the reproductive fluids cannot be made in the right way. So I would say diet is mandatory or essential to any treatment. I mean, I would say for any health healing to happen, a balanced diet should be part and parcel of the treatment, because otherwise what happens, and here I want to say that participative medicine, which is one of the things which is coming up now, the patients have to participate in the whole process. They cannot just say that, okay, doctor, treat me, you do everything, and I'm not participating. So their participation will come from nutrition. They need to follow. And here, which I'm trying to say is that compliance monitoring, the program what we started initially, we also struggled. People would not follow the nutrition chart what we gave them. And then we realized compliance monitoring is one of the things which helps patients to actually follow the plan. So like a protocol which is instituted and then compliance monitoring is checked, then they're able to follow. It's like a coach. It's like a tutor. It's like a coach who goes along with the patient and make sure they're following the plan.
And certain specific things to boost up the semen count and the male fertility, because there were questions on that also.
Like I said, that in Ayurveda, they talk a lot about superfoods, super herbs. Now, what are these superfoods? They are foods which have greater than normal healing property. Amla is one of them. Rhododendron is one of them. Sea buckthorn is one of them. Then, like for example, ginger is one of them. Ginger is considered a superfood because of its impact on digesting toxins. Not only that, chamomile flower, for example, though it's not part of Ayurveda, but it helps in relieving menstrual pain. Jasmine flower, again, not exactly part of Ayurveda, but it helps in water retention. So, in fact, Haritaki, you'll be surprised to know that in Buddhist literature, they show one of the Buddhas, because there are many Buddhas, holding the Haritaki fruit because it's called a rasayan. So when we talk about these herbs, they are rasayans because they help the body to adapt to stressors like tulsi. So tulsi, amla, ginger, cinnamon, black pepper. Black pepper helps to digest the toxins in the body. So there are, like for example, neem. Neem helps the liver to detoxify. So in many chutneys in some of the states, they also add a little bit of neem.
Okay, so in nutshell, all these condiments, like India is very rich source of spices and condiments. So every this thing has a nutritional value, be it turmeric, garlic, onion, ginger, we all know about it. And just in one line, one question, if we have to choose one oil for cooking, which oil would you suggest?
Okay, so that's a tough question because,
Yeah.
different oils have different essential fatty acids.
Right.
And all these different essential fatty acids are very critical to reproductive health. For example, ghee has certain essential fatty acids. Then you have peanut oil, sesame oil. So the current scientific literature recommends that we have to rotate oils, and we have to make sure that we are getting both plant oils and from animal oils. Of course, ghee is the natural, fat which has essential fatty acids. It has many other things. So oil rotation is recommended.
So yeah, that is basically these days, many WhatsApp messages that it is the rotation of the oil which is very important, and you can't be just sticking to one oil. So I think Dr. Sheikha, with you, and I think many of us are benefited by your expert session. And I would just like to comment that as a very nice gesture of their team, Dr. Sheekha and team, they offer one free consultation with them. I think they would mention, Bhavna would mention the link, and they would mention the phone numbers. So whoever is interested just can take one session with them, and I think it will certainly help them. And thank you, Dr. Sheekha. It was really great having you on our forum. And we move on to the next session. So for the next session, I invite our chairpersons, Dr. KD sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shalini. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
more than that, it has been an eye-opener for me also to see how well tuned in all doctors are towards nutrition. It's really been a delight to be in this session.
Yeah, we look forward to having more of a session with you, Dr. Sheekha. The time shortage couldn't permit us to take it further. So thank you so much. So with this, I invite the chairpersons for the next talk, which is by the Ms. Komal and Dr. KD Nair, sir. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Sir is the president of Indian Fertility Society. And my pleasure to invite Dr. Kuldeep Jain, sir. Dr. Kuldeep Jain, sir, again, is a very renowned, dedicated, hardworking. He's actually also the backbone for our IFS. He guides us at each and every step. Sir is the director of KJ IVF Center, and his special interest is laparoscopy. And my pleasure to invite Ms. Komal. She is actually doing a PhD, and our special interest took us because she has a lot of interest in the microbiome. So we our pleasure to invite her that how we are very keen to know that how the microbiome affects fertility. So over to Komal.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the introduction. Ma'am, hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Yeah, you're on.
I'll share my screen, ma'am.
Yeah, you can share. Is my screen visible? Do I need to stop share?
Yeah, ma'am. It says host has disabled the participant from sharing the screen.
Just give me a minute.
Sure, ma'am.
You can share.
Yeah, I'm able to do that now.
Okay, great. Yes, your slide is visible, Komal.
Yes, just a minute.
So she's actually doing PhD with ICMR on the role of and she would be talking on the role of microbiota in infertility. Yes, Komal, we can see. You can go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Just a moment, ma'am. There is. Just give me a minute, ma'am. Sorry for the delay. Okay. Good evening to one and all. Before I begin, I would like to thank the organizing team as well as Rajvi ma'am for giving me this opportunity to participate in this webinar and to talk among such great dignitaries and experts in the field of reproductive biology. So thank you very much, ma'am. So today I'll be talking about the role of microbiota in fertility. So often the terms microbiota and microbiome are used interchangeably, but they are actually different. Microbiota is the collection of microbes, that is the bacteria, the viruses, the fungus, etc., that colonizes the host body, whereas microbiome is the collection of the genome of these microbiome inhabiting the host body. Together, the genomes of all the microbes that are present is called as microbiome. Now, the human microbiota consists of 10 to 100 of trillions of symbiotic microbes, which includes yeast and viruses and bacteria, yeast and viruses. They are present on your skin, your gut, in terms of females present in the vagina, the oral cavity, the respiratory tract, and these organisms and the largest, however, the gut harbors the largest population of microbes and plays significant role in maintenance of the host health. The gut, approximately the GI harbors, about 10 raised to 14 10 raised to 14 power microorganisms in it, and second largest will be the oral cavity. The gut, the composition of the human microbiota differs with diet, age, sex, and environmental factors. Like for example, with age, with age, I can tell you that whether a baby is born via via vaginal canal or C-section, the gut microbiota is different. Is completely is very different. The infant, the vaginal delivered infants has microbiota containing high abundance of lactobacilli during the first few days, which is a reflection of high load of lactobacilli in the vaginal flora. In contrast, the microbiota of infants delivered by C-section is depleted and delayed in colonization of bacteria genus, but colonized by facultative anaerobes such as Clostridium species. The fecal microbiota of 72% of the vaginally delivered infants resembles that of their mothers. Fecal microbiota, well as that of the babies delivered by a C-section, about only 41% of that matches with their mother's microbiota. Whether then further, whether the baby is breastfeed or formula feed, the gut microbiota will be different. By the age of around 2.5 to 3 years, our gut microbiota becomes stable, or the diversity and the functional capabilities of that microbiota resembles that of an adult microbiota. Although in the adulthood, the composition of the gut microbiota is relatively stable, it is still subject to perturbations of life events. Then again, the gut microbiota is again very different in that of elderly people as compared to people, young people, young people. Again, it has been said, the gut microbiota.
Komal,
Yes,
yeah, I'm
yes,
sorry to interrupt.
yes.
I mean, is this on your different slides or you are on the slides too? Because your slide.
No. Yes, ma'am. I'm on the first slide yet. I'm on the first slide, ma'am.
Okay, got it.
Yes, right. Okay, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Then again, as I said, the composition differs with sex. It has been said, it has been observed, although the results are inconsistent, the composition of the microbial taxa differs in sex, in sex, that is in male and female. It has been said the diversity of a female individual is very different from that of a male individual. Then again, it is for sure, it has been observed, in various studies, that after puberty, the gut microbiota of an individual changes. So does this kind of suggest that the sex hormones may play a role, in this differences of the gut microbiota between the two sexes. Okay. Uh, Hello.
Yeah, it's visible, Komal.
So now, coming to the general functions of microbiota, like, before I go into how they play role in fertility or infertility, I'll just go through, like, these are the very important roles of these gut microbiota. For example, they are important in metabolism, immunity. They are a part of our gut-brain axis. Especially in metabolism, one of the major function of this of the gut microbiota is in metabolizing the undigested dietary fibers and giving rise to formation of short chain fatty acids, which are basically acetate, propionate, and butyrate. Now these SFAs has such a wide range of activities in various functions, like, I'll as we go on, I'll you'll come to know the importance of short chain fatty acids, which is produced by these gut due to metabolism by the gut microbiota. Now SCFA serves as a source of intestinal energy for intestinal epithelial cell. They are important for mediating intestinal gluconeogenesis. They inhibit the accumulation of triglycerides and lipolysis in adipose tissues. Further, they are important to maintain the gut integrity, the integrity of the gut, the epithelial cells that lines the gut lumen. So what it does is the SCFA are known to induce genes which are important in maintaining those tight junction proteins, which helps, which does not allow the microbes which are present in the lumen to go inside the host and activate the immune system. So again, the SCFA, they are important to maintain this gut integrity. Then the bile acids. Hello. The
Dr. Madhu, please mute yourself. Yeah, Komal, go ahead.
The bile acid diversity. Now we know how important bile acids are for digestions, but again, the gut microbiota are known to play with these bile acids in a way that they are important in production of secondary bile acids, like the gut microbiota plays a role in metabolism of bile acids, and they maintain the diversity of bile acid, which again regulates variety of processes, including lipogenesis, gluconeogenesis, intestinal inflammation, via stimulation of anti-inflammatory cytokines. Again, coming to metabolism of amino acids, the gut microbiota metabolizes proteins into short peptides, branch fatty acids, and gases like ammonia, H2, CO2, H2S, due to its wide range of proteolytic enzyme activity. Again, the gut microbiota is very important in metabolizing choline, which is mainly derived from food. It is metabolized by gut microbiota into trimethylamine, which is TMA, then converted by the host in its liver into trimethylene and oxide, that is TMO. And it has been found that TMO is widely considered as a biomarker for cardiovascular diseases. Like elevated levels of TMO are considered as a biomarker for CVD. Again, coming to synthesis of vitamins, gut microbiota are known to synthesize variety of vitamins, including vitamin K, vitamin B complexes, including biotin, cobalamin, folates, nicotinic acids, which are again very important, play important role in fertility. Then again, SCFAs are involved, as I said, in maintenance of gut integrity. They are also involved in maintaining the blood testis barrier. The gut microbiota again, promotes and calibrate all various aspects of immune system.
Komal, we've lost you.
Can you
So
all
I
hear?
mean, then again,
Yeah.
the short chain fatty acids again are known to synthesize important neurotransmitters, including serotonin and dopamine. Coming to the has my slide changed?
Yeah.
Now, like the coming to dysbiosis of microbiota and diseases, there are like what is a dysbiosis? A dysbiosis is often defined as loss of beneficial microbes resulting in atypical changes in its role in metabolism and energy homeostasis, leading to inflammation. And there are scientific reports of dysbiosis of gut microbiota observed in various diseases, including metabolic diseases like obesity, diabetes, non-fatty liver diseases. For example, in obesity, what it is found that the gut microbiota is like a lot of is dominated by a lot of types of bacteria known as firmicutes. These organisms are known to have greater capability of harvesting energy from the food we digest. Now, and that is they have decreased and they have a decreased abundance of other type of phyla of bacteria called as bacteroids. Gut microbiota is also known to influence insulin resistance. I'll come to it on how exactly it does this. Again, dysbiosis of gut microbiota is involved in a lot of gastrointestinal diseases, including ulcerative colitis, Crohn's diseases, and it has been found that these short chain fatty acids are basically have there is a lot of reduced levels are observed in these patients in these individuals. Again, as I said, dysbiosis is also involved in cardiovascular diseases, especially the gut microbiota metabolite, that is TMO, is been associated with increased risk of vascular diseases. So again, any kind of disturbance in the normal microflora will lead to increased metabolism of choline, and therefore thereby indirectly increasing the levels of TMO, increase of the TMO. Then again, not only these, the gut microbiota, there are research reports which says the role of dysbiosis of gut microbiota in various neurodegenerative diseases, including Parkinson's diseases and as well as Alzheimer's diseases. Now, coming to the role of gut microbiota in various gynecological disorders, the relation between the sex hormones and the gut microbiota, this potential relationship is termed as microgenoderma. Now, there is a group of of microbes which is known as estrobolome, which is known to regulate the levels of estrogen in the host. Now, what these bacteria does is this bacteria has a codes the genome of these bacteria encodes for the enzyme called as beta glucuronidase. These enzymes deconjugates estrogen, thereby preventing its excretion and allowing its reabsorption in the gut, and thereby making it available in circulation and for the various physiological processes in the body. Now, in gut microbiota dysbiosis, what happened? Either there will be a decreased activity or there will be an increased activity, both of which are are not beneficial for the host. Now, reduced enzyme activity will lead to hypoestrogenic pathological status, like which includes various metabolic disorders. Whereas increased enzyme activity will lead to increased level of the estrogen, which can lead to conditions such as endometrial cancers, breast cancers, and endometriosis. Like we have there are again studies have reported changes in gut microbiome, gut microbiota in endometriosis. Again, as we know, like 20 to 50% of infertile women which are diagnosed with endometriosis, and these women about 30 to 50% have difficulties in to become pregnant. Now again, now this was about estrogen. Now there are group of recently, this was the first report in 2019. So this report talks about how the the importance of gut microbiota in deconjugation of DHT and that is the dihydrotestosterone and testosterone, that is the metabolism of both of these in the mice model. So as you can see, the both such two important sex hormones, both androgens and estrogens, are highly known to are being influenced by the presence and absence of gut microbiota. Now coming to PCOS, and its relation with the gut microbiota dysbiosis. This was in 2012, where the dogma theory explains the etiology of PCOS in terms of in terms of gut microbiota. So what this theory was, like, as we know, the PCOS is highly prevalent, like 50 to 10% in women of the reproductive age suffer from PCOS, and among these women, about 70 to 80% of women suffer from infertility. Now, the dogma theory says that high fat diet leads to in reduction of good bacteria and increases the bad gram negative bacteria. This in turn increases the gut permeability, which leads to leaky gut phenomena. Now, when this leaky gut phenomena occurs, the endotoxins of the gram negative bacteria, such as lipopolysaccharide, which is in the outer membrane component of these gram negative bacteria, it can then go into the gut and triggers inflammation by various downstream mechanisms. Once inflammation is induced, a lot of the inflammatory markers, cytokines such as TNF alpha are then secreted. Now this again, TNF alpha is then known to play or inhibit the downstream processes, downstream signaling of insulin binding. That is, even though your insulin is I'm talking in terms of PCOS, the insulin is being secreted, the patients are the individuals are insulin resistant, because the downstream signaling pathway is inhibited by various inflammatory markers. TNF alpha, again, high fat diet, free fatty acids are also known to inhibit these downstream signaling pathway. So once this is set into action, the person suffers from insulin resistance. Then once the body detects it has insulin resistance, it then secretes, it goes into state of hyperinsulinemia, which is a compensatory mechanism for insulin resistance. Now this excess insulin is then known to in terms of PCOS, again, is known to stimulate excess production of androgen. It acts on various pathways in the androgen synthesis, where it then increases androgen production. And we know the androgen productions are one of the key hormones in etiology of in PCOS. So this is how, like, it's again, this all begin. And as we know, the in PCOS, major therapeutics measure that has been suggested to patients is lifestyle modification. So as we can see here, like, how how high fat diet and these fatty acids can lead to can actually lead to PCOS, apart from the genetic and epigenetic and proteomic factors.
Komal, I'm sorry to interrupt. If you could be brief, because the time is less.
Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'll do that.
Yeah, just yeah.
Then yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, just touch upon the main highlight parts, and especially related to infertility.
Sure, ma'am. Again, then coming to vaginal microbiota. Again, our vaginal microbiota is is mainly dominated by lactobacillus species, and they are important. They play crucial role in resisting colonization and pathogenic colonization of pathogenic microbiomes. They are known to secrete various antimicrobial compounds, which does not allow other types of vaginal infections. Then again, then then there is this condition called as bacterial vaginosis, which is caused by the imbalance of naturally occurring vaginal flora, which is characterized by both change in the most common type of bacteria and total number of bacteria. It is found that the patients or the individuals with bacterial vaginosis is 3.3 more times more likely to be identified in the infertile women than the antenatal women within the same population. Again, again, there is an increase in this increase in vaginal microbial diversity is also reported in women who undergoes recurrent implantation failure. Also, as we know, like the vaginal pH is which is maintained by these lactobacillus species by secretion of lactic acid, is very important for the mobility and survival of the sperms when it travels from the female reproductive canal to the egg. So again, dysbiosis of this vaginal microbiota will lead to the dysfunctioning of the sperms and its transport and its passage through the vaginal canal, again leading to various issues leading to infertility or failure of getting a successful pregnancy. Now coming to role of in a female in the male microbiota, coming to male microbiota, although as we know, the microbiota in the female, in the male mostly exists in the lower genital tract, that is mostly in urethra and coronal sulcus, and in the semen. And also it is seen that although testis is known to be, was thought to be sterile, there are certain kind of bacteria have been reported in the testis also. This gut microbiota are also important. Its metabolism, the metabolites of these gut microbiota are important in various processes of sperm production, penis erection, ejaculations, all of which requires nutrients which are produced by the metabolism by the gut microbiota. For example, as I said, vitamin A, the gut plays an important role in absorption and making an availability of this vitamin A in the body. So what happens is this vitamin A is important for the spermatogonial stem cells differentiation. Differentiation. If there is again, if you can connect, if there is a dysbiosis, this availability of vitamin A is been hampered, and it goes, there is no differentiation of spermatogonia. There is again less production of sperms. Then coming to, there are the various gases which are produced by the gut microbiota, such as nitric oxide, H2Ss, have effects on male reproductive functions. For example, at physiological level, nitric oxides is important to maintain the libido, secretion of LHRH, GnRH. It helps in dilations of blood vessel, allowing the testis to regulate regulates its temperature, as well as then H2S is a physiological vasodilator which directly affects the erectile function of the penis. Then, as I said, vitamins, it has been suggested that these commensal microbiome influences the signaling mechanisms via various signaling molecules that includes vitamin A, K, and altering the biochemical components, and disturbance in these levels of these nutrients will lead to changes in will lead to certain kind of changes which will lead to infertility in men. Coming to the, as I said, microbiota, the microbes are also found in the semens, in the semen of semens of the of male. Although again, it was previously thought the semen is sterile, but it is an ideal environment for microbe, as it contains all the nutrients that a sperms requires for its journey from male tract from tract to the female reproductive tract. So it's a kind of clear ideal environment for microbes to be there. So it has been suggested that the semen, which is predominant with lactobacillus population, it has a role, is kind of higher quality with respect to semen, which has a higher abundance of organisms such as Prevotella and Pseudomonas. Again, there are reports which have shown that alteration in microbial composition of individuals with azoospermia, acetozoospermia, prostasis, and individuals which undergoes erectile dysfunctioning. However, conclusive remark regarding the role of semen microbiota in infertility is, however, is yet to be put forth. Now, as I mentioned previously, the gut microbiota, the metabolites of gut microbiota are important to maintain the blood testis barrier. If the blood testis barrier is impaired, it will impair the spermatogenesis processes, which will impair the viability of the sperms. Again, the endotoxins by these harmful bacteria, once the BTB is disrupted, will lead to inhibition of steroid hormone synthesis by various cells of the of the gonads, which will again reduce the production of testosterone, which will ultimately leads to reduction in spermatozoa, that is the formation of the, and finally the leading to low levels of sperms into the semen. So like there are various like there was a study which was carried by Dardenmed et al. Which found that a 4 week of supplementation of high in a high fat model in a obese mouse of with probiotic, both the motility and morphological parameter of mouse spermatozoa was significantly improved as compared to the controls to the control mouse. So you can see, like, although the role might not seem that prominent, but they do influences infertility in various aspects. Now, although, as I can say, all I can conclude is, although the alteration in abundance of particular microbes is yet to be attributed to infertility, one cannot deny the role of microbiota in influencing fertility. And understanding these detailed changes associated with microbiota and infertility may help to contribute development and promising diagnostic therapeutic strategies. Especially like, since I am working on PCOS, I can tell you there are a lot of clinical studies which are undergoing, and which are also already been done, which says how the various the parameters of PCOS have improved by use of various probiotics or substances which can improve your improve gut health. So that's it. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Komal, for such a wonderful talk. It's actually a new concept which is now coming in, the role of gut microbiome. And over to KD sir and Kuldeep sir for your expert comments.
Dr. Shalini, I think Dr. Komal has given a very deep inside view of microbiome in both male and female infertility. And she is right that this microbiota is more essential for the fertility part. And this is the incoming thing. The next step in our science will be to focus on the microbiota, and we are looking forward to more researches in the microbiota to see how we can interact with our infertile patient. It was really informative.
Kuldeep sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, KD sir. Kuldeep sir. Kuldeep sir there. Yeah, sir is there. Kuldeep sir, are you there?
No, I don't see him.
Okay. Okay. So I think as Dr. Sir has very rightly highlighted also, this is actually a new concept which is being introduced, which is now coming up in a big way. In fact, I just wrote one chapter in Dr. Surveen's book specifically on this gut microbiome. So whether it leads to increased improvement, there is very high and increased use of probiotics, and whether these probiotics are to be given vaginally or whether giving orally, because all this process is interrelated, as Komal has highlighted. If the gut microbiome is balanced, then certainly vaginal gut microflora will be balanced, and similarly for the male reproductive parts. And I think it would benefit, as Komal is already doing the study on this. So we are awaiting her results. And so till now, it is still in the investigational process and we are waiting for the further results. But there is no harm in taking these prebiotics for a shorter duration of time. So I think with this, we wind up our seminar. And Dr. Manjusha, I did all your job. So any comments from you? I know you were busy. We understand. You're muted, Dr. Manjusha.
Yeah, hi. I did manage to attend it in between, although I could not be with you all the time because of fetal distress and an NABH inspection, which happened to all fall at the same time. Anyways, it was very nice listening to the newer aspects. In fact, that since the time immemorial, we all know that a healthy lifestyle and organic food is good for our health. Now science is coming to recognize it, and I think in times to come and with these studies also yielding their results, we're going to be closer to reality. It was lovely being with you. Thank you so much, all the speakers, the chairpersons, and Shalini, you amazing, Rajvi ma'am, Kuldeep sir, KD sir, Suveen ma'am. Thank you so much. And at one time there were more than 72 people who were with us on Zoom, and I don't know how many were there with us on YouTube. Hats off to all of us for and especially Dr. Rajvi and Dr. Shalini for putting up this show. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manjusha and the IFS team, and Dr. Manjusha for giving this, doing this webinar with the UP East chapter. And sincere thanks to Shivam also, who always takes care of the technical part. And Dr. Rajvi, comments from you?
Thank you everyone.
Yes. Dr. Rajvi, you're muted.
So I would like to thank everybody. When we decided on this topic, when Dr. Ritu, myself, and Dr. Shalini were discussing, we thought it's an important topic and let's see how it gets across. And the kind of discussion and interest is elucidated. I think it's something which we need to really work on. And I thank the UP chapter and thank all the speakers for this time. So thank you so much. And we hope to continue bringing you some very new topics for, as I said, food for thought and then implementation in the future. So,
yeah, there's a Google. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Rajvi.
Dr. Kuldeep Jain has just joined.
Yeah. Dr. Kuldeep sir, your expert comments, we are waiting for it. Kuldeep sir, you're muted. Kuldeep sir, some signal issue or he's muted. We can't hear him. I think maybe there's some technical issue. I think sir is there, but Kuldeep sir, yes, I think you're unmuted. Would you like to give your expert comments on the talk on the gut microbiome that Komal talked about?
I could not. Actually, my connection was not very good. So now I'm in my office. I couldn't hear the whole talk, but I think this is a very important subject. We are now shifting our focus from other things like stimulation and all that to microbiome. We have been because what I see, the implantation is very rate limiting factor, and even if everything goes okay, patient doesn't conceive. So there is a huge gap between the embryo transfer and pregnancy rate, and that is one place where I see, I find that we need to go into the endometrial cavity to find out what is going wrong. And there is some connection with the disturbed environment, and there the role of microbiota comes. So there are many studies which have suggested that vaginal flora and gut flora, they interact with each other, and that there is a lot of disturbance. So I think we require a lot of studies as far as the role of microbiome is concerned in infertility. But yes, there is a lot of work going on that side. Even tomorrow, you are going to hear a lot of good stuff from European speakers on recurrent implantation failure. I think that Henriette is doing a lot of work on the vaginal microbiome, vaginal and uterine microbiome. So I think that there is a lot of scope and a lot of things to be seen as far as this segment is concerned.
True. Very rightly said, sir. Yes, certainly we'll hear a lot about it tomorrow in the ESHRE session. And I think we wind up this session for today. And there is a Google form by Dr. Sheekha and her team. You fill that up, and then maybe you can you can contact them on the given numbers also. So thank you everyone, and special thanks to the delegates and the patients for their patient hearing. It has extended our time. Usually we wind it up on time, but then there were so interesting and so elaborate topics that we just couldn't finish it in time. So thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Kuldeep, sir.
And congratulations, Shalini. This was wonderful. I think nutritional talk was also very, very good. Because these are the subjects I think we need to discuss more and more. We know the importance, but how much we can take them into practice and how much we can emphasize these things on our patients. Unless we discuss, we go into the depth, it may not be very useful to our patients.
Yeah, so, very, very right.
This program was very informative. I heard few of the
thank you so much.
We'll share the recording with you, sir.
Yeah,
we'll share the recording with you so you can.
Hi, Rajvi, how are you?
All good. So we'll share the recording with you so you can go through and give your ideas when you have time. Okay. So thank you, everybody.
So we leave. We take permission and we leave this webinar. Have a great day, everyone. Good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.